Hello, everyone, and welcome back to In the Chair with Dr. Gina Conversations Beyond the Chapter. Episode 6 The Relationship is Happening in the Details. This week's assigned reading focused on the actual delivery of telehealth services, everything from setting up your clinical space, eye to eye contact, session flow, documentation, technology, maintaining rapport through the screen. As I was reading over the material, I kept thinking about something I tell students all the time. Small things are really ever rarely small things, especially in counseling. And when we're first learning to be counselors, we tend to focus on the big stuff, the interventions, the theories, the treatment plans, the diagnosis, the right thing to say. Who amongst us has not been there? After years of sitting with people, I've become convinced that many of the most important moments happen in places we barely notice. A pause, a glance, a shift in posture, a softer tone of voice, the extra 30 seconds we spend staying curious, going deeper, the willingness to stay present when someone says something difficult. This chapter spent quite a bit of time talking about eye contact, looking into the camera placement, lighting, room setup, like what's behind you. I figure at least one of you read that and was thinking, really? We're talking about lamps now? Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Because counseling is a human endeavor, and humans are constantly gathering information. Clients notice things, they make meaning. They notice when you're distracted. They notice when you're looking somewhere else. They know if you're painting your nails. They notice when you're rushing. They notice when you're present. And they definitely notice when your camera angle makes it look like you're staring at your keyboard. The authors of the text talked about how eye contact changes in video conferencing because we're naturally tempted to look at the image of the person rather than at the camera. That's a technical observation, but it's also a relational one. Because eye contact isn't really about the eyes. It's about attention. It's about communication. It's about communicating, I'm here with you. One of the things that really surprised me when I began practicing telehealth was how much intentionality it required. In person, many relational signals happen organically, automatically. Online, we have to amplify them. We need a little more. We verbalize a little more. We check in a little more. We become more deliberate about communicating presence. I think that made me a better counselor because I had to be aware of things I used to do unconsciously. That's the cue. If you've had me in another class or spent any time with me at all, you're probably already anticipating where this is headed. Let's talk about Adler for a moment. Adler firmly believed that people are transformed through experiences of belonging, encouragement, and connection. Not merely insight, connection. And one of the things I've been thinking about lately is how often clients don't even remember our interventions, but they remember how they felt in our presence. They remember whether they felt judged. They remember whether they felt understood. They remember whether they felt heard or respected or accompanied. That's the part that stays. The embodied witness, one human to another. One of the funniest sections in the textbook chapter is where the authors discuss complaints about telehealth providers appearing in bathrobes, eating sandwiches, yelling at dogs, filing their nails, or otherwise behaving in ways they would never ever do in the office, in person therapy. I laughed when I read that because the point is important. Professionalism isn't about appearance, it's about communicating respect. Every behavior communicates something. Every choice communicates something. The room communicates something. The lighting communicates something. Your attention communicates something. And your clients are constantly making meaning of those signals. One of the things I've noticed over the years is that the best counselors aren't necessarily the most impressive counselors. They're the most attentive counselors, the ones who notice, the ones who stay curious, the ones who catch that slight hesitation in the client before the answer, the ones who shift, change, and ask, what's happening right there? And honestly, that's true whether we're in the same room or separated by 500 miles. Because the relationship doesn't happen in the technology. The relationship happens in the space between two people paying attention to each other. The technology creates the opportunity. And as you move through this week's material, I would encourage you to think about this question. If presence is communicated through small moments, what are clients learning from the way I show up? Not what I know, not what theory I use, not what intervention I choose, but how I show up. Because in my experience, that's where some of the most meaningful work begins. The question to ponder: if presence is communicated through small moments, what are clients learning from the way I show up? Be well. And in the meantime, I'll meet you back here in the chair.